Okay, so you've heard the studies about pain and how babies can feel pain. Now there's numerous studies out that show it's 13 weeks actually where a baby in the womb can feel some type of pain. I don't know if you've heard that.
Okay, don't care.
Okay, so I care because it's a human life, and if it's experiencing pain,
well, the experience part is important. So I would have to see the particular study when it talks about like pain, because there are certain things that like I'm pretty sure there are certain responses that we have just in our brainstem. So for instance, human response time, if we're pushing the edge of what's possible, is I think around like 150 to the average like 200 milliseconds, right? But if you put your finger on a stove, on a hot stove, you can pull back before you even have the experience in your head of feeling any pain. Because I think some neurologists.
This is a technicality, though. You realize.
Well, no, it's crucial. There is something happening in the brainstem that's like causing your finger to pull back really quickly, and you haven't actually had the subjective experience of pain.
Okay,
so when somebody
said,
says like, "Can you experience pain?" Like, well, amoebas can avoid negative stimuli, and a fetus.
An amoeba. Okay, that's a perfect example.
Sure.
You said 23, 24 weeks, though.
20 to 24 weeks.
20 to 24 weeks. Okay, can you bring up that image, Tyler, from Tommys.org? People need to understand, and I think this is a huge problem that women don't. Okay, can you just show me that picture? That's a baby, and that is a 22-week-old baby. I want you to look at that picture. I have a son.
I've seen all the pictures. I was there for his delivery. It was super fun.
No, because it's very easy. You say these things 20 weeks, 22 weeks, 13 weeks, and it's very hard to understand. That's a 22-week-old baby that was delivered, actually, at 22 weeks, if you would believe it. The story is incredible, and survived. So when
do you ever show like when you do these things? Do you ever show pictures of like this is a mom living in a house where she can't afford rent, where she's addicted to drugs, where she's a single mom, where there's no help for her, or do you ever show pictures of like this is the kid in the adoption clinic because nobody's there? No, you only want to show the one side.
Show pictures of kids in an adoption clinic.
Sure.
To have this conversation about whether or not we should murder a baby in the womb.
Well, are we talking? Well, if you're trying to just invoke an emotional response, then I think that the progressive because
I'm not going to justify murdering. What I just saw was a baby, not an amoeba. That's a baby. Based on all the other things that you're justifying. We can talk about adoption. We can talk about how to assist women who find themselves in predicaments that are
but conservatives never want to talk about those things.
We want to talk about it all the time.
They never want to talk about those things.
Conservatives talk about crisis pregnancy centers all the time. Donate money to it. Make it a top priority.
Conservatives care about the baby right until it comes out of the womb.
That is
and then
nonsense.
at that, it's personal responsibility. It's your family.
You have people like Allie Beth Stuckey. Do you know Allie? I don't know if you know Allie. She works the plate. She's front and center. Lila Rose. These people in the pro-life movement care deeply about what happens to that child from the time that it is conceived. Why didn't conservatives support to extend the child tax credit then from Biden for upping it from 3,000 or from 2,000? Can we talk about this for 1 second? Because we're going to let's talk about this for 1 second. Because I'm deeply curious. Are you worried at all about do you think that most people know what they're talking about when we talk about a 22-week-old baby? The reason I showed that was not to upset people or to upset you.
Well, of course it's to upset people. That's the goal.
No, it's a reality. In the same way that I want a woman who goes in for an abortion should have to look at an ultrasound.
Sure. And I think that you should see things on the other end as well. I think in that case, if you want to deliver a baby, then
no.
You should see this is what your life looks like post-pregnancy.
So that should be the justification. So in other words, if your life is going to be, then you shouldn't have had sex.
The justification should be, here are your ethical or philosophical arguments to justify whether or not it's good or bad. Not like, let me show you enough pictures to make you feel, because I can show you enough pictures about literally anything. I can show you enough pictures about anything to make you feel anything about a certain way. Really? What's one topic you think I couldn't? What's one topic you think I couldn't convince you of? If I'm showing you pictures.
Whether or not somebody should be able to end the life of something else. You mentioned an amoeba.
That is a philosophical argument. That's an ethical argument.
You mentioned an amoeba.
And we all saw the one guy go on Stephen. It wasn't Stephen Crowder. It was the Turning Point USA guy, Charlie Kirk, where he held up the picture and he said, "What is this?" And Charlie Kirk said, "That's a beautiful baby embryo." And he was like, "No, it's a fucking pig."
So did that look like pig to you?
That didn't, no. But 8 weeks earlier, what it looked like. I said I was against abortion for 20 to 24 weeks. He showed me 22-week fetus.
That's a 20. Okay.
Sure.
And I also had a conversation with you 2 minutes ago where I said that most people on the left aren't willing to define the number at all.
Well, good thing you're talking to me and not most people on the left.
So if we showed a 19-week-old baby, in fact, I know because I have a baby and I went through all those sonograms, you're going to see something that looks like a baby. Tyler, do me a favor. Pull up a 19-week-old baby. Let's see what it looks like. Because this is what I'm talking about. These numbers are quite arbitrary. And the bottom line is...
The pictures are arbitrary.
What the bottom line is, it is a human life growing inside you. I had it growing inside me, and it is a human life.
Human life is not the question. The question is there an experience there that's worth protecting?
That's ridiculous.
What about a person in a coma that's never going to wake up?
That is, Stephen, it's ridiculous.
What is it? Talk to me about that. It's a human life.
It's like the viability argument.
We're not talking viability.
Oh, there you go.
Look, I don't care about viability.
Okay, 19 weeks. Looks like, that's weird. Looks like baby. Okay.
Right into the trash can.
Little legs.
Easy.
Deeply disturbing what you're saying, though. And
what about the people in the coma? What about the people in the coma?
This is the result. The conversation that we're having right now, where it's like
we're not having a conversation. We're looking at pictures, and you're asking me to cry because of a picture.
No, I'm not asking you to cry. What I'm asking you is to factually acknowledge what we're talking about.
We're not talking facts, though.
Yes, we are.
The facts would be, here's the argument for why it should be defended. Not, here's a picture. Doesn't it look really cute?
The reason why I oppose abortion is because it's a human life, and I'm showing you that human life in the same way that I argue.
Show me a human life. We can talk about the concept of human life.
Okay, it's a person that you make that's growing inside of you.
So what about a fetus at 1 week?
It's a person that you make that's growing inside of you.
So what if you terminate a pregnancy at 1 week?
Yeah.
What is being harmed? Who is being harmed?
The baby.
What baby? There's no experience there that's being harmed. They don't even have the brain yet to have the experience.
Talk to me about the experience of a baby at 22 weeks. How do you know what the experience of a baby is at 22 weeks?
Because at 20 to 24 weeks, and that window is when all of the necessary parts of the brain are formed and communicating with each other.
You're making a decision based on how much of the baby is formed to decide whether or not the baby should be murdered. But it's a baby. It's still a baby. At 2 weeks old, at 3 weeks old, at 4 weeks old, it's a baby.
How much of the baby should it be murdered?
Let me ask you a question.
Do we want to beg the question any harder?
Okay, let me ask you a question.
So when do you approve of holocausting infinite amounts of children, innocent children? Like,
this is
of course I'm not going to answer. The question is...
What would happen to the baby if you didn't murder the baby? Would it turn to a full-term baby, odds are?
The fact that you're asking me what would happen if you didn't do a thing proves that that thing isn't worth protecting. You have to wait for it to turn into something else. So my question to you is, again, who is being harmed when you terminate a 10-cell fetus?
That's the same argument that people make who say the baby's not viable outside the womb.
I'm not making a viability argument.
Argument.
I'm not. It's not the same argument.
It's the same argument because they'll say you're saying that its brain is not. They're not having an experience.
There's no harm. There's no one that you're harming. Yes,
that's ridiculous.
Well, who's being harmed then when you have the 10 cell?
The baby.
What is
a human life that's been formed?
But they have no mind. They have no concept of themselves. They have no sense of being. They have nothing. It's ridiculous. You think the 10-cell thing is
absurd?
Looking around with the 1-cell eye.
I had a baby.
Yes, I had a baby too.
The baby lived inside my body.
Okay.
I went in.
I felt him kicking a little bit. The belly button popped out.
Inside my body.
Flew out of the mother.
I had a baby who had a personality very early on.
Okay,
that the sonogram, you know the sonograms, you go in for the sonograms and there's a light that shines and my little man
you do the little jelly for the ultrasounds and everything.
It's a baby. It's a baby. So that is what all I'm simply...
At 1 week? Is it a baby?
All I'm simply... It's a growing baby.
It's growing, so it's not there yet. It's not there yet.
No, and you know what? Guess what? At almost 2 delivery, it's not there yet either. And when it pops out, sometimes they have to make it cough and they have to do something to make sure that the baby's okay, and it's not there yet.
It is very clearly there.
And also, if you take a baby outside the body,
for
those making the viability argument.
We're not making the viability argument.
People
I
are.
Which people in chat? Are they making the argument in chat?
People make it all the time.
No, I'm just
viability is the argument that gets made all the time. But regardless,
we're not talking about viability.
If we're going to have a... But listen, I understand where you're coming from.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. I understand there are many people with your line of thinking.
There aren't very many people with my line of thinking. They're making bad arguments like the viability argument, which is garbage.
They make arguments about 20. They delineate. Let's say they delineate 22 weeks, whatever it is. That was originally the number that was used.
What I should be doing is the one with the least sad-looking picture, though. That's the best.
No, but you should look at a baby and say it's a baby.
I need to be able to say, look at one at 12 weeks, and then that's the one that looks like the dolphin embryo. And I'm like,
that looks like a baby. So we can't live in a world of delusion. We cannot live in a world of delusion.
Is saying it's a life worth protecting because it looks like a particular thing.
It's a baby. It doesn't look like a baby. It is a baby.
What if I showed you a baby that was delivered and had no brain? Is that a baby that's worth protecting?
Would I tell you to, if the baby was delivered with no brain, it has no brain?
Well, let's say it can be alive. There are babies that have hydrocephalitis. You've got lots of water in the brain. You've got a brain stem. There was a woman
what do they do to those babies when they're delivered?
Sometimes they keep them. The parents will keep them until I think they die when they're like 4
or 5.
So
if you're asking me if I would advocate to murder that baby, the answer would be no.
It wouldn't be murder. It'd be killing.
To be fair, it's murder.
Killing.
It's murder.
Well, we're debating whether or not it's murder. That's the point of the debate. Right. Murder is by definition
killing
killing.
Murder.
Not always.
You kill something, it's murder.
If you kill something in self-defense, does that count as murdering?
Are they killing a baby in self-defense?
I'm not asking. We're asking if the killing is justified or not.
Okay.
Murder is by definition unjustified killing. It's not getting silly. It's not.
Getting silly.
If you ask me, is it okay to murder something? That's tautologically false. Of course not. Murder is by definition unjust.
Here's why I think it's important to show the pictures. Because one of the arguments, and I had somebody who used to work on Planned Parenthood. I had Abby Johnson on here, and she talked about what goes on behind the scenes. Was she the person
doing the selling the body parts for money, or?
No, she worked at Planned Parenthood. She was a Planned Parenthood clinic director that left and became part of the pro-life movement, and she talked about what goes on behind the scenes in Planned Parenthood.
Gotcha.
And I had her on the show, and I asked her about why don't they show sonograms to women? And I firmly believe, and for example, this is similar but different argument, but for a long time, I was plant-based, and I didn't eat meat and all that stuff. And I said, and I did it for animal reasons. I was very, very in that head when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I want to go and I want to eat meat. I want to get comfortable with this because there were nutrient deficiencies that I think it's very hard to get what you need to get when you remove meat. Personally, that's what my experience has been. And I said, you know what? I want to know what I'm doing, though. I want to watch what happens. I want to know the difference between humane and inhumane killing of animals. I want information. I want to be informed, and then I can make that decision. And the way that I feel about it is, if a woman is going in to get an abortion, they need to know what they're doing. They need to see what's going on. And what she told me is that they don't show the sonograms because they don't want women to have an emotional reaction when they see a baby growing inside them. And women, in large part, will have an emotional reaction because you will see a life moving around. You will see little hands sometimes. You will see little feet, and it will look like a baby because it is a baby. So all I'm saying is, if you decide you want to get an abortion, know what you're doing. Go in there, and they should show you a sonogram.
You don't have to see it. That's your choice. It's your personal medical
history.
history.
And if you do want to see it, they should show it to you.
If you want to see it, then sure.
And
but I'm sure if you ask, can I see sonograms? Like, we don't do that here. If you might get emotionally attached.
That's what happens.
Okay.
They don't show the sonograms to the women in Planned Parenthood. That's what happens. So the reason I showed the image to you is just because for me, it is
because you don't have an argument.
Where's murdering a baby is not an argument?
No, that's a statement. Murder is wrong. You murder baby. That's not an argument. That's a statement. That's a conclusion.
Don't murder a baby in your belly. Don't murder a baby.
Murder is wrong by definition, of course. The question is it a human life that's worth protecting? That's the question.
So you know what?
And we saw a picture, but the picture's worth 1,000 words. I don't know if it's worth any arguments.
So you think that it's